hear me? Thank you. Can I ask, is this meeting being recorded? Let me put the public on notice this meeting is being recorded. Can I ask everybody please to turn their cell phones on to silent or shut them off altogether, please? Thank you. Before I get into the agenda, I just have a couple of important announcements to make. Those of you that were at our meeting on Tuesday know that Commissioner Doyle had some technology issues, and will also know that I gave her a fair amount of grief about those technology issues. She has subsequently given me definitive proof that it was not her fault. Our IT department confirms that it was not her fault, and so I am here humbly apologizing to Commissioner Doyle. I however, am not making any promises about not giving her grief in the future.
Apology accepted.
Thank you. Second, it's getting pretty warm and humid outside. This is an old building, so if it gets warm, I'm warning people ahead of time. I'm going to take off my jacket, and I'm giving dispensation to the staff to do so as well. The public, you're free to do whatever you'd like. Well, as I said, the public can do whatever they want to. Hey, come on, my job does not have a lot of perks, so I'm just. Forget it. Finally, let me talk about the flow of the meeting today. It's going to be, I believe, a long meeting. First of all, I wanted to thank Chairman Rogers for allowing us the use of this room. We have both our regular agenda for our biweekly meetings as well as conversation, discussion, and vote on regs. What we're going to do is we're going to go through the standard part of our agenda all the way through, I think we have, if I'm correct, 7 final licenses and 8 provisional licenses to review and listen to the staff recommendation, discuss and vote on. We will then take a brief lunch break. It'll probably be early, I would imagine sometime around 11:30, and come back and try to power through the regulations. I believe that we have covered most of the substantial issues that needed to be covered in our previous meetings, but we'll take as long as we take until everybody is comfortable with the draft regulations. And we have this room till 5. I have no idea whether we'll need that entire time frame, but it's going to be, in my estimation, a pretty lengthy meeting. Excuse me. We'll start with minutes from previous meetings. Andrew's not here, but in absentia, I'd like to thank Andrew. And the other thing I'd like to do, I will, when we get into the regulatory.
Andrew's in the back.
Oh, is he? Oh, Andrew, you're hiding.
Yeah.
Thank you for your help on the minutes. When we get into the discussion of regulations, I will again thank our legal staff for all the hard work they've done. But I just wanted to kind of thank on a broader basis the entire staff. This has been the last month, particularly a particularly intense time in terms of meetings, draft regulations, on top of the day job of reviewing licenses, enforcing licenses. So this week particularly, incredibly quick turnaround from Tuesday to today, an incredible amount of work from pretty much every member of the staff in terms of getting ready. These meetings are not easy to prepare for, require an enormous amount of effort from the staff, and I just wanted to thank the entire staff, certainly those that are here, but also those that are, there was a phone going off. It's okay, no problem. I just want to thank the entire staff for the hard work. We hopefully, after today, will be able to take a little bit of a breather, not in terms of our day job, but certainly in terms of, I think we have a couple of weeks before our next public meeting. So anyway, thanks to everybody here and not here for all the hard work in preparing for these important meetings. Let's jump into it, starting with minutes. We have 3 sets of minutes to review, starting with May 16th, 2019. Can I ask the Commission, have you had a chance to review those minutes, and do you have any questions or suggested changes?
I have a suggested change.
Commissioner McBride?
I have a suggested change to the May 16th, or in addition to the May 16th meeting.
Yes, please go ahead.
So on the 4th page, the second, I guess that's the first full paragraph, it starts with Mr. Potvin and Director of Enforcement Patrick B.A.
Just give me a second, sir. Fourth page, yes, go ahead.
Inserting after the sentence, Commissioner Title noted she was seeking all documents related to this transfer of ownership, inserting the following. Chairman Hoffman said, obtaining an outside vendor has been discussed with the executive director and will be underway shortly, period.
Okay, thank you. Any objections to adding that? Thank you. Any other comments or suggested changes? Then can I ask, please, for a motion to approve the minutes from May 16, 2019, with the addition suggested by Commissioner McBride?
So moved.
Let the record show Commissioner McBride made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Flanagan. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show the Commission unanimously approved the minutes from May 16, 2019. Moving on to minutes from May 23, 2019. Has the Commission had a chance to review those, and are there any questions or comments? Then may I ask, please, for a motion to approve the minutes from May 23, 2019?
So moved.
I'm sorry, I had a tie. Commissioner McBride, can I have a second, please?
Second.
Let the record show Commissioner McBride made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Flanagan. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show the Commission unanimously approved the minutes from May 23rd, 2019. Finally, minutes from May 30th, 2019. Has the Commission had a chance to review them? Are there any questions, comments, or suggested changes? Okay, great, thank you. Can I have a motion then, please, to approve the minutes from May 30th, 2019?
So moved.
Commissioner Doyle, can I have a second, please?
Second.
Let the record show Commissioner Doyle made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner McBride. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Let the record show the Commission unanimously approved the minutes from May 30th, 2019. Once again, Andrew, my thanks. We unfortunately, I think we're adding dramatically to your workload with the meetings this week, but thank you very much for keeping us current. Moving on, Mr. Executive Director, can you give us your standard biweekly report, please?
Sure.
If I can get it. I thought this was working. It was working. Sorry, guys. Commissioner Doyle, this would be your opportunity to give me grief about my technology issues.
I'm way too much of a lady to do that, Mr.
Okay, it just moved.
Yeah.
Are you going to stand over there and do it for me?
No, but Henry will.
Okay. Thank you, Anne Marie. Is this the first slide of your report?
It is, yes.
Okay, Mr. Executive Director, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as I indicated in previous meetings, we're attempting now to align some of these data reports to our open data platform so that the information is identical, but also so that we're kind of working off the same numbers and hopefully bring some an intuitive approach to how we try to present this. So that said, this first slide here is new from a data standpoint, but it does represent those packets or those applications that are currently pending before the Commission for consideration and review. That grand total is 274. You see the breakdown there on the table as far as which license type folks are seeking. But again, it's 274 are folks that have submitted all 4 packets and are therefore pending Commission review at this time.
Thank you. Is that working? Yeah, okay. Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Executive Director, please keep going.
We'll need to go back one.
It might or might not be easy to do. There we go.
There we go. So this number here includes that 274, again, with all 4 packets having been submitted. 297 have been withdrawn. There are 2,933 that are incomplete, and incomplete in this context is not having yet submitted all 4 packets to the Commission. As you'll recall, 1 application has been denied and 174 have been considered and approved to date. So a grand total of 3,679, but I think the number we'd like to work with is that 274 that's really pending before the Commission.
Sure, thank you. Any questions before we move on? Okay, thank you. This is very interesting. Is this the next slide?
This is the same slide.
Is it the same slide? Okay. Well. Okay, guys, we're going to need to figure out a way to...
You're too low. You gotta be up higher.
I was talking...
When you were standing, it was going fine.
Again, Steve?
Well,
Should I stand on my toes? Seriously?
Oh, sorry.
Come on.
that was my only...
That was it? You just, you got nothing, huh?
Higher.
And
Okay.
we're looking for slide 6. And
Okay, we got it. So, just for So Emery, you're standing there and you're going to change slides?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry to ask you to do that. Mr. Executive Director, I wish you'd keep going and not have all these interruptions.
These are going to be interesting minutes, Mr. Chairman. So this slide, slide 6, includes, you see the grand total here is 174. These are the applications that the commission has considered, and therefore, these are in some phase of licensing. And one thing that we're going to do moving forward is break down where in the licensing process. So again, 174 have been considered, but are they provisionally licensed, final licensed, or commence operations in that 174?
Right.
And that's actually, appreciate the suggestion of Commissioner Doyle to present that again, to try to bring some more clarity to where folks are in the process. But you'll see that we've considered, the commission has considered and approved 174 applications to date, and therefore there are 174 licenses at this point.
Great, thank you. Questions?
This slide here does break that down a bit further in that kind of licensing process, but what we'd like to do is make it by type. The hits just keep on coming.
Yeah, seriously. I hope that's the air conditioning turning on.
That said, there are 17 that have been provisionally approved. What provisionally approved indicates from our process is that they've not yet paid their licensing fee. Provisional license is issued once the fee is in fact paid. That's 91. There are 14 final licenses that are in the process of being inspected for the purposes of commencing operations. And as you see, there's 52 that have in fact commenced operations.
Great, thank you. I think this is a very useful way of breaking it down.
This information here is the 449 total. That's the total that are pending for the commission's consideration, as well as the 174 that have been considered to date. Where they break down as far as their priority status, you'll see that there's 190 that have secured RMD priority, 10 that have secured economic empowerment priority status, and 249 that are general applicants.
Thank you. Anne Marie is moving fast, so you
She
you
is.
have to keep up with her. No, I did keep going.
This next slide is familiar and has not changed based on our previous presentations, which is the DBE statistics that are received as part of the application process. You'll see that of those 449, the majority, or 86.2%, have not identified as a disadvantaged business enterprise. This slide here, of those 449, again, tries to give a sense of where things are at in our kind of process. This includes those 270 plus that are pending before the commission. 151 have not yet been reviewed by staff. 79 have been reopened and require additional information to be submitted. 36 are awaiting third-party response. Again, the third-party response is either the municipality in their review or the background check. 8 are before you for consideration today, and as I indicated, 175 have been considered by the commission.
Great. Thank you. Questions? Keep going, thank you.
This slide here indicates where those applications are coming from across the Commonwealth. And again, you'll see that predominantly the majority of applications are pending from Worcester County, but again, this is total applications pending before the commission.
Okay, keep going.
This next slide indicates retail and where they are pending from across the Commonwealth. You see it's a bit more spread out or dispersed, but again, predominantly Worcester County as well.
Thank you.
This next slide indicates those total agent applications. You'll see that there's 6,252 total. While 4,511 are active, there are really 167 that are currently being reviewed. Of those 167, 46 have not yet been reviewed. 119 have been reopened and require additional information. 2 are awaiting a third-party response in the context of an agent application. That third-party response is fingerprinting for laboratory agents. And again, as they're reviewed on a rolling basis, there is none that are awaiting approval or pending.
Thank you.
This next slide here indicates of those agents a bit of a demographic breakdown. This first one is by gender. You'll see that 66.9% have identified as male and 32.7% identified as female.
Thank you.
This
I didn't
next,
slow you down that much.
this next slide here is continuing on the demographics of agents. You'll see that of the 4,678, and again, that's those that have been approved or are active and those that are still pending, you'll see that the majority are 73.5% have identified as white.
Thank you.
This next slide is from our medical data, which is not currently in our portal, so the extraction is a bit more difficult on our end, or a bit more manual, I should say. That said, there's 154 total license applications pending for marijuana treatment centers. Also, 164 licenses have been, or registrations have been issued to date. 106 are in the provisional, 5 are final, 50 have commenced operations, and 3 have expired.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, the left-hand side is actually agents as well.
Right.
I'm sorry, this new slide, sorry. Thank you. As far as the agents for RMDs or marijuana treatment centers, you'll see there's 6,177, 4,192 of those are active. There's 75 that are pending. On the certified patients, this information is the same as the last meeting, as it's run on a monthly basis, so we'll be able to update those on July 1st.
Okay, thank you.
This next slide, or the next several slides, in fact, pertain to the social equity program and those applications that are received through the portal. You'll see that there's 708 to date that have been interacted with our system. That said, there's 51 that have been approved, 114 have been reopened and require additional information to be submitted. There are 229 that are in our process as far as being reviewed and pending a review for either approval or reopen, and 314 in total are incomplete and therefore not yet submitted to the Commission. Some bit of a demographic breakdown on the right-hand side as far as gender. Their status is either a farmer, veteran, or an economic empowerment applicant, and again, further demographic information relative to race or ethnicity.
Okay, thank you. Before you go, any questions on that? Okay, keep going, please.
This next slide here indicates which track those applicants have identified as being most relevant or important or interesting to them. You'll see continuing to be the majority interest is that of entrepreneurial, with 162 applicants, or 70% of those that have submitted an application. The next is entry, re-entry at 24, core at 21, and ancillary at 22.
Okay, thank you.
For the entrepreneurial track, you'll see that there's 162 applicants. This is, again, a breakdown of both gender as well as demographic or race and ethnicity. You'll see that the majority are Black, African American, and 105 have identified as male.
Thank you.
Continuing with this presentation is the re-entry track. Again, there's 24 total applicants, and again, the majority have identified as Black, African American, and the majority have identified as male.
Keep going, thank you.
Same approach on the core track. You see there's 21 total applicants, majority identified as Black, African American, majority have identified as male.
Thank you.
And finally is the ancillary track with 22 applicants. You see the majority have again identified as male, and again the demographic or race and ethnicity background or submission is on the left-hand side.
Okay, thanks. Are there any questions before we move on? Thank you. I think the changes you've made actually have really helped, so I appreciate that. Before we get into licensing, do you have any other topics in terms of hiring, RFPs to update us on?
Just two quick updates for the Commission's consideration and kind of a advance notice that some other new materials may be coming your way. So the first one is, as you may recall, the Commission in the medical regulations included a provision for temporary registration for initial patients and that initial certification and registration process. That is something we're planning to launch on July 1st. Right. That is, we're describing it as initial access. The reason for that change is confusion as far as if you are approved in the patient portal in the virtual gateway for either your registration or your renewal, you have access to printing out a temporary registration card to use until such time as your registration card does hit your mailbox. Because of the way the terms were used and somewhat used interchangeably, we wanted to avoid that confusion with launching it publicly. So we're describing it as initial access, which is a patient after visiting a clinician, which could be a provider, a physician, nurse practitioner, or a physician assistant. That clinician will be able to enter their information into the system. They would then be able to go to a dispensary. They would still need to complete their registration in the portal. This would give them a limited 14-day access until that process is completed on the patient's end as well as on our end. So that is something we're planning to launch on July 1st. We have reached out and tried to engage as many folks as possible as far as making sure the materials are relevant and topical. That includes the Mass Patient Alliance. Patient Advocacy Alliance, as many providers or clinicians as we could identify, as well as the dispensaries themselves, to make sure that this is as seamless as possible. But obviously, we're braced for whatever may come, in fact, but I think it's a matter of us trying to be as prepared as possible to roll it out on July 1st. So,
And this is an important step, one that I know that a lot of people have been asking for, so I think it's great that we're doing it, and obviously, I hope it rolls out smoothly, but I'm sure we'll get it right. So thank you very much for the effort of the staff on that. It's very important.
That's going to be live on July 1st, and that news is out there, so folks are hopefully prepared for that. The next thing is responsible vendor training is another application we're prepared to launch on July 1st. That is something that obviously those programs and those vendors will need to come before the Commission for approval and consideration. That application will be through the Mass Cannabis Industry Portal, so hopefully folks will be able to go there and apply. What we're really looking for is to identify those vendors, review their curriculums, and make sure that it's something that meets the standards and the regulations, but also make sure we capture enough information to give to the Commission for your consideration. We're excited to roll that program out. To our knowledge, it's the first statewide program of its kind. Other jurisdictions are using it in a variety of ways, but this would be a mandatory element for our agents to complete. It's something that hopefully, from a presentation of the Commission standpoint, we'll have enough information for you to make your assessment and your evaluation. One thing I also want to commend is our staff for kind of pulling resources together. This is nobody's full-time job, so it's really it's a combination of Dr. Julie Johnson, our research director, Patrick B.A., our director of investigations, myself, Commissioner Doyle. Others have really collaborated on this to make it as from a process standpoint as functional as possible. But it's also something that as this grows, we may want to devote some additional resources to make sure we're prepared to really maintain and oversee this program in an effective way. But it is a compliance piece. It's also an educational component, so a lot of resources will be brought to bear to make this successful.
Great, thank you.
I had a question.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner McBride.
Thank you for putting that together and getting that underway. I'm not sure who to direct this question to, so I'll just throw it out there, and whoever can answer it should. With the responsible vendor training, are we anticipating vendors who are going to be doing the entire list of training, or are we anticipating that there may be, one vendor that is presenting on the one piece of it, and then another vendor that, in other words, are we looking for sort of the whole picture, or can vendors come forward who might be able to provide one particular component of the training, and then others would fill in those blanks? How are we seeing that moving forward?
I'll take my attempt at answering it, and obviously between Patrick and Commissioner Doyle as well, but my suspicion is that there will be some vendors that will be able to do all of it. I would be open-minded and I think encourage folks, if they're experts at a portion of it,
Right.
to come forward and present that to us. What it would be is for the Commission's consideration at some point to say, you are approved for this portion of it. And then on a compliance and to make sure that if a licensee or agents themselves are using that vendor for that purpose, that they're also finishing up on the other end to make sure they get the complete training that is necessary. But
So we foresee the potential for vendors to be specialized.
yes.
Thank you.
Is that
Commissioner Doyle, do you have anything to add, please?
Sorry, the mic is like in another country from me, so I'm just going to switch over.
If you don't mind staying closer to me.
Completely fine, I don't want to mess up your materials. So yes, right now we have essentially a base model, just going off what we had in the regulations, which was modeled off of Colorado's voluntary program. Ours is different because it's mandatory, but I hope by the fall regulatory round to do a little redesign so that the base model will have more opportunities to specialize further. It's just not quite there yet. And I think most of the vendors who have approached us are planning to do the full panoply.
Thank you. Any other questions to the Executive Director? Any other topics, Mr. Executive Director, that you'd like to raise with the Commission?
not at this time? Those are the two updates I wanted to make sure were before you.
Okay, thank you very much. We're now going to move into the license discussion and vote part of the agenda. We, as I said, have, if I'm correct in my count, 7 final licenses and 8 provisional licenses to review. Mr. Potvin, you're going to lead us.
Yes, sir.
First up is Caregiver-Patient Connection, MC 281254, Tier 2 Outdoor Cultivation. Mr. Potvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you stated, the licensee here is the Caregiver-Patient Connection located at 295 Vernon Ave in Bar, Mass.
Barry, we had this
Barry.
conversation once
Yes, we
before. And I got a nasty, no, I didn't.
I always forget, my apologies again. The license being sought here is a Tier 2 outdoor cultivation license. The licensee does have a provisional license for retail operations in Fitchburg. The licensee was issued a provisional license on December 13th, 2018. They have paid all their applicable license fees. There have been no changes to the organizational structure of this entity since the issuance of the provisional license, and no new information has been discovered by Commission staff regarding the suitability of the licensee. The initial inspection took place on May 31st. The licensee's establishment was inspected by staff and found to be in full compliance with the Commission's regulations. Areas that were inspected during the inspection include security provisions, inventory and storage provisions, cultivation operations, and transportation operations. Therefore, Commission staff recommend issuing a final license with the conditions before you.
Thank you, Mr. Bachman. Any questions or concerns from the Commission?
Actually,
Commissioner Doyle?
this is just simply not remembering. Is this our first final outdoor?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I think we,
Do we have?
well, I think we've issued one or two,
Yes.
if I'm correct.
Yeah,
I mean, because I think I actually made a big deal out of the first one we did. So I think it might be only one, but I know we've done at least one already.
We've done at least one.
okay, great, thank you.
But we can make a big deal. I mean, outdoor cultivation is a good thing, so. Any other questions or comments? Then can I please ask for a motion to approve the staff recommendation for caregiver-patient connection, MC 281254, Tier 2 outdoor cultivation?
So moved.
Can I have a second? Let the record show that Commissioner Doyle made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Flanagan. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show the Commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation for caregiver-patient connection. Thank you very much. Next, Nature's Remedy, and these are co-located. I'm going through my notes, I'm sorry. These are co-located?
Yes, sir.
All three?
No, the first two.
The first two, cultivation and product manufacturing, that's correct. Okay, so Nature's Remedy of Massachusetts Incorporated, MC 281482, Tier 4 indoor cultivation, and Nature's Remedy of Massachusetts, MP 281524, product manufacturing. Mr. Potvin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you stated, the licensee here is Nature's Remedy of Massachusetts Incorporated. The location is 310 Kenneth Welch Drive in Lakeville. The two final licenses being sought here are a Tier 4 indoor cultivation license and a product manufacturing license. This licensee does have 3 provisional retail licenses located in Tinsboro, Millbury, and Raleigh. The licensee here was approved for provisional licensure on April 4th. The licensee has paid all of their applicable license fees, and no new information has been reported to Commission staff regarding the organizational structure of this entity. Additionally, no new information has been discovered by staff regarding the suitability of the licensee. The initial inspection took place at the facility on May 22nd of 2019, and the establishment was found to be in full compliance with the Commission's regulations. Areas of that were inspected during this inspection and during the various inspections include security, inventory and storage, cultivation operations, product manufacturing operations, and transportation operations. Therefore, Commission staff recommend issuing final licenses with the conditions before you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Potvin. Are there any questions or comments from the Commission? Okay, then we'll take separate votes. Can I ask then, please, for a motion to approve the staff recommendation for Nature's Remedy of Massachusetts Incorporated, MP 281524, excuse me, I'm sorry, Nature's Remedy of Massachusetts Incorporated, MC 281482, Tier 4 indoor cultivation. Can I have such a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Let the record show Commissioner Doyle made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Flanagan. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Commissioner Title? Let the record show that the Commission approved the staff recommendation by a vote of 4 in favor, Commissioners Flanagan, Doyle, Hoffman, and McBride, with Commissioner Title abstaining. Thank you. Can I now ask for a motion, please, to approve staff recommendation for Nature's Remedy of Massachusetts Incorporated, MP 281524, product manufacturing?
So moved.
Can I have a second? Let the record show that Commissioner Flanagan made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Doyle. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Commissioner Title? I'm sorry. Thank you. Let the record show that the Commission approved the staff recommendation for Nature's Remedy of Massachusetts, MP 281524, product manufacturing, by a vote of 4 in favor, Commissioners Flanagan, Doyle, Hoffman, and McBride, with Commissioner Title abstaining. Thank you, Mr. Potvin. Next up is Nature's Remedy of Massachusetts Incorporated, MR 281553, retail. Mr. Potvin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you stated, the licensee here is Nature's Remedy in Massachusetts Incorporated. The location is 266 North Main Street in Millbury, Mass. The final license being sought here is a retail license. The licensee has 4 additional licenses, cultivation and product manufacturing, that prior today they held a provisional license, now final license, and 2 additional retail locations, provisional license in Tinsboro and Raleigh. This license was approved for provisional licensure on April 26. The licensee has paid all the applicable license fees. No new information has been reported to Commission staff regarding the organizational structure of the licensee. Additional to that is no new information has been reported to staff regarding the suitability of the licensee. The initial inspection took place at this facility on May 30th of 2019, and the licensee was found to be in full compliance with the Commission's regulations. Areas that were inspected include security provisions, inventory and storage provisions in their retail operation. Their transportation operation was inspected at their Lakeville facility, which was previously discussed. All operations will be managed from that facility. Therefore, Commission staff recommend issuing a final license with the conditions before you.
Thank you, Mr. Potvin. Any questions or comments? Thank you. Can I ask then for a motion, please, to approve the staff recommendation for Nature's Remedy of Massachusetts Incorporated, MR 281553 Retail?
So moved.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Let the record show Commissioner Doyle made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner McBride. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Commissioner Penn? Let the record show that the Commission approved the staff recommendation for Nature's Remedy of Massachusetts Incorporated, MR 281553 Retail, with a vote of 4 in favor. Commissioners Flanagan, Doyle, Hoffman, and McBride, with Commissioner Tittle abstaining. Thank you. Next up, we're going to do 2 together and then separate votes for Green Lady Dispensary Incorporated, MP 281345 Product Manufacturing, and MR 281427 Retail. I'd like to welcome Armand to the stage. Armand has been actively involved in this one as it relates to unique lab testing requirements, given that we're talking about Nantucket here. So, Armand, welcome. But I think Mr. Potvin is going to lead this conversation as well. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Thank you.
As you stated, the licensee here is the Green Lady Dispensary Incorporated. The location is 11 Amelia Drive in Nantucket. The 2 final licenses being sought here are that of a product manufacturer and a retail license. The licensee has been previously approved for a final license for a Tier 1 cultivator, also in Nantucket. These licenses were provisionally licensed on December 13, 2018. The licensee has paid all their applicable license fees. No new information has been reported to Commission staff regarding the organizational structure of the entity. In addition to that, no new information has been discovered by staff regarding the suitability of the licensee. The initial inspection took place at the facility on June 5th. The licensee was determined to be in full compliance with the Commission's regulations. The areas that were inspected include security provisions, inventory and storage provisions, their product manufacturing operation, and their retail operation, as well as their transportation operation. Therefore, Commission staff do recommend issuing a final license with the conditions before you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Potvin. I'm going to ask if we could dive into one part of this in detail, which is in the recommendation number 2, the licensee may perform on-site laboratory and testing operations for its marijuana and marijuana products in accordance with the proposed testing protocols provided to the Commission pursuant to 935 CMR 500.200. I'd just like a little bit of insight in terms of how that conversation went and what are the unique requirements that we're asking for with respect to the testing protocol. Thank you, Armand.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. Yes, obviously, with the Green Lady presents some interesting, unique challenges for us down on Nantucket. Public health and safety is the paramount concern for this commission. So during my site visits, I personally witnessed the Green Lady's testing protocols and procedures, and I'd be happy to elaborate on any specific provision as you want. I did want to highlight that for the pesticide testing, the Green Lady has contracted with Proverty Labs in Milford, Massachusetts. Soil samples after cultivation will be obtained. It will be a deep trough system, so as they go down into the soil, they will make sure they have the top layer, middle layer, and bottom layer to assume that all potential areas where pesticides could be detected will be. Those samples will then be sent to Proverty Labs in Milford. They will run their analysis, and then they will provide the Green Lady with the testing results back. The conditions I stated in the report are, in the essence, that if any failed test, we would want to be notified immediately. Now, obviously, with certain conditions, they'd be able to remediate. But what I wanted to kind of make clear to the Green Lady and for the commission is that we would be kept abreast of any failed reports. So with that being said, if the commissioners have any questions regarding the specifics of the individual testing protocols, I'd be happy to dive into those.
Thank you very much, Armin. Are there questions?
Yes.
Commissioner Doyle?
Thank you for all your work on this. And I'm just wondering about the testing of finished products. How is that going to go?
Yes, so the Green Lady has the on-site testing labs. So for the microbials and mycotoxins, they have a Petri dish system. And I thoroughly reviewed this with them, actually Insight, saw them kind of run through the process. So how that would work was they have the incubation periods, they have 2 ovens, one can be set for up to 24 hours, one can be set at 48 hours. Different pathogens require different amounts of times at different heats in order to clearly detect the presence of them. As far as the heavy metals, that initial test will be done when the soil sample is set to Proverti Labs. In addition to that as well, they have on-site testing strips where solutions can be diluted, kind of mixed in, and the solution can be detected within 5 to 10 minutes of that. As far as the solvents, they are only going to be using CO2. As such, CO2 is not detectable by a test. Now, for the products that require winterization, they are going to be using residual ethanol. It's going to be food grade. They will run a final test on the solvents for that to make sure any ethanol used in the winterization process has been completely removed from the process. As far as the microbials, I said in the SOPs, they provided a pretty in-depth readout with actual physical representations and visual cues as to what each pathogen will detect. So when we send samples back and forth to them, everything's going to be under camera coverage, everything's going to be recorded. They're actually going to send me a picture of the sample with the pathogen. Based on the materials they provided to me, I will be able to clearly match it up with the key and will be able to detect very quickly whether there are any issues or not.
And then the one other thing I wanted to touch on, and they're aware that there's going to be a labeling requirement with regard to the limited testing?
Yes, Commissioner. All products coming out of their establishment will clearly have the warnings, limited testing for contaminants and pesticides. They are very aware of that. And like I said, with the pesticide testing in Milford, ideally, the actual plant would be tested itself. Obviously, with the federal laws, we can't have that. So the soil actually presents the next best alternative to that. Just quickly dive into that. Pesticides are usually either admitted with a foliar sprayer or actually emitted through the soil itself. So either through the soil or sprayed on the plant, you're going to have a residue that is going to be detected into the soil itself.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? I have one. I don't think this is actually necessary for our license discussion and vote, but is the intent that other licensees in Nantucket, should they apply, would be able to use this lab? And again, I don't think that's relevant for our license discussion today. I'm just kind of curious in terms of the evolution of the industry.
The one caution I would have against that is that this lab is not going to be ISO accredited.
Right.
I think that one caveat might disincentivize people from actually testing their labs. Now, with that being said, there might be the opportunity to have product tested there just for a general consensus of where their product is in a sense. But I don't think this lab currently as is could probably set as a testing lab for other establishments on the island.
I don't think that's required, but thank you. Any other questions? Armin, thank you. That was incredibly thorough and helpful. I really appreciate
Thank you. My
you and your
pleasure.
team.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask then for a motion to approve the staff recommendation for the Green Lady Dispensary Incorporated MP 281345 product manufacturing, subject to conditions articulated, including the one we just discussed. Can I have such a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Doyle made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Tittle. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show the Commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation for the Green Lady Dispensary Incorporated, MP 281345, product manufacturer. Let me also ask, please, for a motion to approve the staff recommendation for the Green Lady Dispensary Incorporated, MR 281427, retail.
So moved.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Let the record show Commissioner Doyle made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Tittle. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show that the Commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation for the Green Lady Dispensary, MR 281427, retail. I do believe that is the first retail final license on the island of Nantucket, so significant event. Thank you very much, Armin. Really appreciate it. Next up, HVV Massachusetts Incorporated, MRD 1185, which is a vertically integrated medical marijuana treatment center, RMD. Mr. Potvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you stated, this medical marijuana treatment center is HVV Massachusetts Incorporated. As it is a vertically integrated operation, they do perform cultivation, product manufacturing, and dispensing operations. All of those operations will be located at 38 Great Republic Drive in Gloucester, Mass. The licensee has 2 additional MTC licenses. They are currently in the provisional license stage, with dispensaries located in Amherst and another dispensary located in Boston. The licensee was approved for a provisional license for this license on November 3rd of 2016. The licensee has paid all the applicable license fees. No new information has been reported to Commission staff regarding the organizational structure of the licensee. Additionally, no new information has been reported regarding the suitability of the licensee. The initial inspection took place at this facility on May 8th of 2019, and the licensee was found to be in full compliance with the Commission's regulations. Areas that were inspected include security provisions, inventory and storage provisions, their cultivation operation, product manufacturing operation, and retail operation. This licensee will not currently be performing any transportation operations. Therefore, Commission staff do recommend issuing a final license with the conditions before you.
Thank you, Mr. Potvin. Are there questions? Then please, could I ask please for a motion to approve the staff recommendation for HVV Massachusetts Incorporated, RMD 1185, vertically integrated medical marijuana treatment center, and RMD?
So moved.
That was Commissioner McBride? Yeah, thank you. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Let the record show Commissioner McBride made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Doyle. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Commissioner Title? Oh, you said aye. I'm sorry. I apologize. I missed that. Let the record show that the Commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation for HVV Massachusetts Incorporated, RMD 1185. Thank you very much, Mr. Potvin. Got the energy to go through the 8 provisionals?
Absolutely.
You sure?
Absolutely.
You don't need a break? That was not a trick question. Okay, let's keep going then. So first up is BCWC Limited Liability Corporation, MCN 281970, Tier 1 Indoor Cultivation. Mr. Potvin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you stated, the applicant here is BCWC LLC. The proposed location is 1884 in North Main Street in Sheffield. The license being sought here is a Tier 1 Indoor Cultivation license. The applicant here is a licensee for the following licenses. They have a final license for a Tier 9 outdoor cultivation operation in Sheffield. They have Tier 2 indoor cultivation, product manufacturing, and retail license located in Attleboro. And if this license would be approved, they would be at their cap of 3 cultivation licenses for a total of no more than 95,000 square feet of canopy. The individuals associated with this application include John Kenyon, Brett Fish, Blair Fish, Duncan Harris, Mark Rue, Zachary Allen, and Robert Grillo, all as owners and partners, and Derek Ross as the director. There is one entity other than the applicant itself that is associated with this application. It's Future Farm Technologies, which is a Canadian business corporation that lends financial support to the applicant and will hold an equity stake in the marijuana establishment. This applicant was an RMD MTC priority applicant, and they do currently have a provisional certificate of registration or provisional license for dispensing, cultivation, and processing. They did execute a host community agreement on January 3rd of 2019. They conducted a community outreach meeting on December 14th of 2018, and the Commission did receive a municipal response from the municipality on June 7th of 2019 stating the applicant was in compliance with all local ordinances and bylaws. The applicant did submit a positive impact plan, which includes the following goals: provide business assets such as time, organizational skills, and finances for individuals in Mansfield, Taunton, and Brockton. And secondly, assist individuals and businesses facing systemic barriers to employment and economic success by providing mentoring, professional, and technical services. There were no concerns arising from the background checks on any of the individuals or entities associated with this application. The applicant states that it could be operational within a month of receiving their provisional license. The applicant did submit a diversity plan, which includes the following goals: form a diversity and equality committee to accomplish the goal of being diverse and to promote equitable hiring practices, establish a mentoring program, and lastly, create incentives for current employees to recruit individuals from diverse backgrounds. As this is a cultivation application, they did submit a cultivation plan that demonstrated their ability to comply with the Commission's regulations. Therefore, Commission staff do recommend issuing a provisional license with the conditions before you.
Thank you, Mr. Pockman. Are there questions or comments? Commissioner Tuttle?
Mr. Chairman, I have one concern about the diversity plan. In its diversity plan, the company has set a goal of ensuring that at least 55% of employees are women, minorities, veterans, and people with disabilities. And I feel that is too low, given that women are 50% of the population.
You have a proposed alternative?
Therefore, I'd like to include a condition that the diversity plan be revised and resubmitted.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
That the diversity plan be revised and resubmitted.
Comments or questions? Okay. Then let me ask, please, for a motion, please, to approve the staff recommendation for BCWC Limited Liability Corporation, MC 281970, Tier 1 Indoor Cultivation, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Tidal. Can I have such a motion, please? So moved. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Let the record show Commissioner Flanagan made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Doyle. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Let the record show the Commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Tidal for BCWC LLC, MCN 281970, Tier 1 Indoor Cultivation. Thank you. Next is Blackstone Valley Naturals, again LLC, MB 281476, which is a microbusiness that includes both Tier 1 indoor cultivation. Mr. Potvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you stated, the applicant here is Blackstone Valley Naturals, LLC. The proposed location is 660 Douglas Street, Unit 400 in Uxbridge, Mass. The license being sought here is a micro-business. They plan on performing a Tier 1 indoor cultivation operation as well as a product manufacturing operation. This applicant is not an applicant or licensee for any other marijuana establishment license. The individuals associated with this application include Timothy Phillips and Kevin McConnell as managers, Walter Napkik as manager and general counsel, Brian McConnell, Jackie Forder McConnell, Arlene Rahala, Tiana Rahala, and Sean McConnell, all as close associates. The applicant provided documentation demonstrating that a majority of their executives have been residents of Massachusetts for longer than 12 months. There is one entity other than the establishment itself that is associated with this application. It's Eagle Star Security Incorporated, which is contracted to order and install the marijuana establishment security equipment. This applicant is a general applicant. They did execute a host community agreement on June 25th of 2018. They conducted a community outreach meeting on June 21st of 2018, and the commission did receive a municipal response from Uxbridge on May 6th of 2019 stating the applicant was in compliance with local ordinances or bylaws. The applicant submitted a positive impact plan, which included the following goals: provide a workshop environment where students 21 and up can meet real-life cannabis entrepreneurs and learn the fundamentals to starting a new business in the industry; encourage and assist students 21 and up in coming up with their own cannabis business ideas and properly laying out a plan; and lastly, provide educational lessons in legally growing cannabis and manufacturing products. There were no concerns arising from the background checks on any of the individuals or entities associated with this application. The applicant did submit a proposed timeline that states that they could be operational within 4 months of receiving its provisional license. The applicant submitted a diversity plan, which included the following goal: work with diversity-focused organizations to promote job openings through advertising employment opportunities in diverse publications or mediums, participating in job fairs, and establishing relationships with specific organizations that are diversity-focused. As this is a micro-business that includes a cultivation and product manufacturing element, they did submit a cultivation plan that demonstrated their ability to comply with the Commission's regulations. They also submitted a list of products they plan on producing, which includes sap, shatter, sugar, sauce, and butter. Therefore, Commission staff do recommend issuing a provisional license with the conditions before you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Flanagan.
Mr. Chairman, I have some concerns with regards to the positive impact plan. First, I appreciate the fact that we have a micro-business before us. I know how difficult this process can be, and I appreciate the small businesses looking to apply. However, this positive impact plan talks about working with social service agencies in Worcester County and obviously geared towards adults 21 and over. But my concerns are, one, the advertising. It seems to me that if you want to attract the 21 and over, you really kind of push the boundary of also advertising to people under 21 around that 18 to 20-year-old age, seeing as though they tend to congregate together. So the one question is how they intend to advertise. The second is that it says that they're looking to partner with a social service agency that resides within the disproportionately impacted areas. Just as a note is that not all social service agencies are sited within those areas, but can benefit the residents to those areas. So I'm hoping that they can expand a little bit on their search. But what's most troubling is that it says that as they had gotten further into the process that they would identify the social service agency, and that's not done here in this plan. So I'm hoping that they could submit amendments with regards to which social service agency they're going to work with, how they intend to advertise to those at the, 21 and over, and also who's going to host them. Is this going to be done on site? Are these events going to be taking place off premises? I just get a little concerned when it's the 21 level that we're talking about here, because again, that age group tends to interact together. So with that condition.
Thank you, Commissioner Flanagan. Other comments or requests? Commissioner Tittle, and then Commissioner McBride. Commissioner Tittle.
Thank you. I have a concern about the diversity plan having programs and measurements, but no measurable goals. Therefore, I'd like to add a condition that the diversity plan be revised to include measurable goals and resubmitted.
Thank you. Commissioner McBride.
I don't have a concern. I wanted to comment that I'm actually fairly impressed by their electronic countermeasures and their security plan. So I just wanted to say that if folks are looking for something to perhaps model as they're putting it together,
Best practice.
I think that they've done a really nice job. So.
Great. Thank you. Any other comments? Then I would like to ask, please, for a motion to approve the staff recommendation for Blackstone Valley Naturals, LLC, MBN 281476, which is a microbusiness, including both Tier 1 indoor cultivation and product manufacturing, subject to the additional conditions requested by Commissioners Flanagan and Tittle.
So moved.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Let the record show that Commissioner Flanagan made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner McBride. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show that the Commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation for Blackstone Valley Naturals, LLC, MBN 281476, subject to the additional conditions requested by Commissioners Flanagan and McBride. How many licenses does this represent? This is the fourth microbusiness?
Oh, sorry.
No. You anticipated where I was going next.
Yeah.
How many microbusinesses does this represent?
This would be number 4.
Number 4. Great, thank you.
I was also right when
Yeah, no, all-purpose response. Thank you, Ms. Potvin. So we will now go through 4 simultaneously, although we'll have 4 separate votes for Top 10 LLC, MCN 281734, Tier 3 indoor cultivation, Top 10 LLC, MCN 281745, Tier 3 outdoor cultivation, MPC 281496, product manufacturing, and MRN 281924, retail. Mr. Potvin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you stated, the applicant here is 1010 LLC. The proposed location is 775 North Main Street in Sheffield. They are seeking 4 licenses. The first license is a Tier 3 indoor cultivation license. They're also seeking a Tier 3 outdoor cultivation license. They're seeking a product manufacturing license and a retail license. This applicant is not an applicant or licensee for any other marijuana establishment license. An individual associated with this application is Scott Trifolo, as an executive and officer. There are no other entities other than the applicant that appear to have direct or indirect control. The applicant is the general applicant who executed a host community agreement with the municipality on September 4th of 2018. They conducted a community outreach meeting on September 13th of 2018. We did receive a response from the municipality on April 22nd of 2019 stating the applicant was in compliance with local ordinances or bylaws. The applicant submitted a positive impact plan which included the following goals: aid in workforce development and education of industry-specific technical assistance, provide financial education, and lastly, host local sealing and expunging events. There were no concerns arising from the background checks on any of the individuals or entities associated with this application. The applicant did submit a proposed timeline that states it could be operational within a year of receiving its provisional licenses. The applicant did submit a diversity plan, which includes the following goals: diversity recruitment and sourcing, employment retention, training and development, and strategic partnerships with suppliers and vendors. As this is a cultivation, product manufacturing, and retail operation, they did submit additional summaries, which are before you for your consideration. Therefore, Commission staff do recommend issuing provisional licenses with the conditions before you.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there questions? Commissioner McBride?
So I think in reviewing their management operations profile, it seemed like all of the documents applied to all of the licenses. So I'm just going to kind of talk about this generally without, I think, specificity to the specific sort of cultivation and product manufacturing, because it kind of goes together. So my understanding is that they are not going to be doing, there are no medical operations. Is that accurate?
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
Okay. So my first question is, looking at the business plan, which is something that is not under the management operations profile but is part of their packet, they have a statement in here that 1010 has the legislative approval to sell both medical marijuana as well as adult use marijuana. Now, because it's part of their business plan, this is something that, they're going to provide this to investors. It's not really something that we necessarily are reviewing as part of the management operations profile, but I flag it because it raises concerns as I go through the other documents and kind of, you kind of see maybe where I'm coming from as I go through the documents. So if we go to the shipping, receiving, and transportation part of the plan, and you look down at the bottom, the last paragraph, the inventory manager must securely transmit a copy of the shipping manifest to the receiving facility. This is my question, and the regulatory agency on the business day prior to transport. Do we require there to be the transmission of a manifest to us on the day of?
I don't believe, I'm sorry. I don't believe so, but
That's my understanding, too.
it would be encapsulated within the seed-to-sale tracking system.
Okay. So, I mean, again, this is sort of, and so maybe that is, maybe there just needs to be some clarification there on that, and that's fair. If you go to the third page of the shipping, receiving, and transportation plan, again, the final paragraph on the third page starts under delivery confirmation, that heading, when delivering for patient or caregiver purposes. Are they going to be authorized to deliver to patients and caregivers if they don't have a medical?
No.
Okay, so that's concerning to me because I'm feeling a little bit like, I'm not sure where the company is coming from and which regulations they were reading when they were putting together this plan, which is supposed to substantially comply with our regulations and reflect our regulations. So if you go on to the security summary, and I think this is the second version. This is the second version of the transportation plan, and also the second version of the security summary. If you go to under K, AC and EACC issuance procedures, there's a discussion about temporary keys, that they'll be issued for a period of 24 hours or less, but never to a limited access area. Okay. The next paragraph starts, CCC registered vendors and contractors may be authorized to have temporary loan keys. The security director will authorize in writing the use of temporary loan keys. I have some concerns about temporary loan keys being issued to vendors and contractors. I'm not sure what the meaning is of CCC registered vendors and contractors, so maybe that's something that could be further delineated. But just generally speaking, are temporary loan keys something that, as a security measure, we're authorized in our?
No.
Okay, so that's concerning to me too. I mean, I think that, generally speaking, I just have some concerns about how
Understood.
the management operations profile has been put together, and so I think
Okay.
I would, if we decide to move forward with a provisional license on this, I think that they really need to be looking more closely at these policies, looking at our regulations, and I would ask that they be rewriting both of these policies completely, but I will say here for the record that I actually have real concerns about whether this company understands our regulatory structure and what's required under the regulations.
Thank you, Commissioner McBride. I'd like to hear from other commissioners about this, but I certainly agree with Commissioner McBride's assessment that these are pretty substantive issues. But can I hear from other commissioners with their thoughts? Okay. I think then let's take a vote on this, and I'll phrase it the same way as I do for everything else, but we'll see. So we'll do 4 separate votes here, starting with Top 10 LLC Cultivation Tier 3 Indoor, MCN 281734. Can I have a motion to approve the staff recommendation? So, would you like to add a condition, Commissioner McBride, or would you like just to have a straightforward vote on the staff recommendation?
I'll add the conditions that they rewrite the transportation plan and that they rewrite the security plan.
And, okay, thank you. Also, I thought you talked about the management operations profile to reflect more closely our actual adult use regulations.
As components of the management operations profile, those two specific
Okay,
plans.
okay, thank you. So then can I have a motion to approve the staff recommendation for Top 10 LLC, MC 281734, Tier 3 indoor cultivation, subject to the conditions requested by Commissioner McBride?
So moved.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Let the record show Commissioner McBride made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Doyle. All in favor? All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Let the record show that the commission unanimously denied the staff recommendation to approve Top 10 LLC MCN 281734 Tier 3 indoor cultivation. Can I have a motion, please, to approve the staff recommendation for Top 10 LLC MCN 281745 Tier 3 outdoor cultivation, subject to the conditions requested by Commissioner McBride? Commissioner Flanagan, can I have a second, please?
Second.
Let the record show Commissioner Flanagan made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner McBride. All in favor? All opposed?
Nay.
Let the record show the commission unanimously denied the staff recommendation to approve the provisional license for Top 10 LLC MCN 281745 Tier 3 outdoor cultivation.
Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Yes.
I think for purposes of processing
Yes.
denial, we do need some sort of statement as to the basis of a denial as well, which might be helpful from just a process standpoint.
Okay.
I want to, Christine, do you want to add to that, or?
Sure.
I apologize, Mr.
No,
Chairman.
no, thank you very much for the clarification.
If I may, what I would be looking for is that the commission could articulate the licensure requirement that they believe was at issue with the denial.
Fine.
If we could also identify what was submitted in support of that licensure requirement, and if there was some issue with the information or how that information applied to the requirement. And if the commission would like to adjourn, I can help in terms of finding.
Well, let's see if Commissioner McBride feels like he can articulate that, and if not, we will take a short adjournment. Commissioner McBride, do you feel like you can articulate?
I would like to have 2 minutes
Why
so
don't we
I
take?
can put together
fine.
the actual.
And, go ahead. We'll take 2 minutes. Should we revote? No, we can reset, but should we revote on the first two? Or can we?
I would like the denial I would like the commission to vote on the basis of the denial.
So, thanks. Let's talk offline, but we'll take a few minute break. Thank you. Commissioner McBride, just tell us whenever you feel comfortable.